So what do you look for in a hire?
I look for someone who's definitely like a self-starter. People who will take the initiative. I know like it sounds kind of weird, but like some people will just ask you so many questions when they could just do like a quick Google search and find the answers themselves.
The
So
ability to figure stuff out. It's so key.
yeah, so I'm like, okay, granted, like your SOP should be good. Your person should understand like their role and what you're asking them to do. So you need to make sure that like your communication is good on the front end. But then there's also like little things where like, well, people will come and ask you questions and you're like, if you literally did like a 1 second Google search, you would have the answer to that. So
Right.
that is, I'm like, I look for people who will take the initiative to try their hardest to figure problem solve themselves.
I love it. Do you have any bad hiring experience? Any nightmare story that you could share?
Uh, I white labeled to an agency one time and it was just like not a super great setup. Like the clients were really not happy with the results, but then I was like, I was white labeling it. So I was kind of like confused at like where to go because I had to take the responsibility for their lack of like doing things correctly. And then I was like trying to teach them how to do their job correctly. And it was just like a really mess. So that's pretty much the worst thing. Nothing too bad. You know, I've had people come in where it's like they say they're going to do something, then they don't do it. But I usually would never outsource something if it's like desperately needs to be done like the next day. So yeah,
Right.
nothing too crazy.
So are you hiring more followers to follow your system, your process? Are you hiring more specialists, like people who are really good at that one thing that maybe you're not good at? Are you hiring more experts or maybe white label partners to do things that you just don't do or and you're not good at and you don't want to have a system for it? They already have that and they're bringing it to the table.
I would say right now I'm hiring more specialists. So I definitely have like, you know, for the agency, there's the back end, the ads, and there's the front end, like our ads, and there's the customer service. And then, you know, there's all these different pieces that you can break your system down into. And I don't want one person who's like, oh, well, I do your customer service and I do your cold calling and your cold emails and I set up your ads on the back end. Like, I'm like, no, I don't want that. I want you to be really, really good at the thing that you do. And then the whole goal would be to get so many clients and ramp that up. So maybe when you first start, that person's only working 10 hours a week for you or something like that. But then once you get more and more and more clients, you know, now that person has a full-time position and they're amazing at what they're doing because you've just been like, this is your zone of genius. I want you to be the best at this.
And your agency is completely remote, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Sorry, keep going.
no, go ahead. I am pulling onto a new agency right now, and I have 2 partners, and we're all completely remote and pulling this agency together, which this project just started a couple weeks ago for this new agency. And the goal is to go from 0 to 100K months in less than 6 months, all remote, all staff are remote, everything.
I love it. What about team building? I mean, how does someone really build that culture that's efficient and productive?
That, I mean, when it's remote, I definitely think it's a bit harder. I think the team communication, when you start hiring, really getting like having conversations with those people, having the SOPs in place and building that culture is really like being a leader. So like you want to give your team everything that they can to win and to succeed and to have open lines of communication. So not this like, I think some people have this culture of like wanting to micromanage everything and look over everyone's shoulder and make sure that like people aren't like, I don't know, aren't wasting their work hours or whatever, because you're paying them, you know? So if you want to make sure it's not wasted, but I think that that culture kind of like breeds like mistrust and breeds kind of like some resentment. So really like empowering your staff and like using the right language to empower them and say like, and I go through this in my program as well, like the exact language of like each different delegation level. Like if you want someone to make decisions for you, or if you want someone to do research and then bring you the research, if you want someone, you know, to do research and then give you like their best option and try to convince you on it. And then if you tell them yes, then they can go ahead and do it. So like there's so many different layers and you really can empower people by telling them, hey, this is exactly what I want you to do. And so many people will kind of miss that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think people get so caught up in like, I want to use Time Doctor and watch their screens and make sure that every second is productive. But that's just, like you said, it just breeds distrust and makes people not want to work with you. They always feel like they're working over their shoulder. They're not going to be as productive. They're not going to be as creative. And I mean, I have 50 VAs in the Philippines. I don't have time to go through their screens. I build a certain level of trust. If they're not doing what they should be doing, it's not going to take me very long to figure it out. And that little bit of money that I save is not worth the entire mentality that I'm pushing on them across the board. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Because I mean, to be honest, like a lot of time when we're hiring VAs anyway, like we're saving ourselves quite a bit of money using VAs rather than having like an office and having a staff come in and all this. And it's like the marginal money that you might lose if your staff like watched a YouTube video for 15 minutes rather than doing the work. Like it's so small and marginal in comparison to like having them be in a good mood, a good attitude, want to be a part of the team, want to actually build your vision. That's like the big thing is like, it's like having people come in and care enough about like your vision and where you're trying to go. Like that culture of like, this isn't just about money. It's not just about me. Like this is like the mission of my company. These are the changes we want to make in the world. Like making it about something bigger, I think makes a big change.
So you're learning all this stuff online. How does that transition into being an agency owner? Because there's a lot of people that go in that direction. They start working for another agency. They start freelancing. They start going into a different business endeavor. Why an agency?
So I kind of got into the agency space almost by accident. I actually started out as a blogger